blurring the lines between real life and Second Life. Bringing you in-depth information about the people behind the avatars. Giving you insight like you've never heard before. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fourth Wall with Paul and BK.
Hello, everybody. I am the scumbag superstar Paul Slater, and we're back with a Fourth Wall. I'm here with my partner BK and his lovely partner Z. And guess what, Z? BK, we're on location here, BK. We're at the LPW arena, and we have a big show today.
Absolutely. We put this together. Kind of got to put together pretty quickly, but I'm excited. Our first on location. We're here at Limitless Pro Wrestling. And Paul, you kind of set this one up, so I'm going to let you introduce our guests.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to introduce our first guest because there's not a lot of people in SL where I'm like, wow, man, this guy's really good. I mean, everybody's good, but what guy that like I was kind of like my favorite person to watch, and that's none other than right next to me, Oliver Wonderful, aka Alex Nightmare, and also his co-owner, Man Mike, who I met a few times. Man Mike is over here. They are the co-owners of LPW.
Hey, how is everyone?
Hey, look, okay. Before we get started, I've got to point something out, okay? Now, Ollie, you and I, the first time we ever met, I don't know if you remember this. Remember that little impromptu thing that we did with the whole, we did some trash talk, we did a promo on each other. Remember that?
I did. It was
Okay,
3 years ago.
but what I want to know is we were goofing off. But what I want to know is if you look behind Paul, kind of off to the side, we have Samantha over there that's holding up a sign that says Alex sold out. Do you want to explain that before we even get started?
Yeah, it's a constant reminder. I have Samantha, who is one of my wrestlers here at LPW, and is very talented. But when she's not in the ring, I actually have her job as carrying around a sign to remind me that I sell out arenas everywhere I go. And whenever she decides to do that, and gets to do that once in her career, she can put the sign down. So that's why she's here holding the sign.
That's why I love this guy.
Right.
Remember when they're giving the middle finger, they're just telling you you're number one.
Absolutely. All right, let's just go right in. Now, something if you listen to our other episodes, there's questions that we're going to come up with and conversations we're going to have, and it's going to be pretty. There's some of them that's going to be pretty basic across the board because it's something everybody will want to know. I don't care who starts, Mike, Ollie. We want to know, or I personally want to know, what got you interested in wrestling in real life? What caught your attention, and then from that, how did you end up coming in SL and then getting into the wrestling that way?
Okay. I would like to put my hand forward as the first participant in this game.
Mm-hmm.
So I got into wrestling. I can't remember who here said they had quite fond memories with their grandpa or something like that. But
That was me.
Yeah, so that resonated with me quite a lot because I first started into wrestling through my grandpa. And I know with the previous podcast you was talking about with KC about wrestling in England,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously there's World of Sport and all that stuff with Big Daddy, Kempo and all that stuff. And that was quite big in England around my grandpa's age, and that's what he knew.
Hmm.
But then he was watching a little bit of the American wrestling, and he had some tapes over. It's still available in England, but not as probably as readily available as in the US. But I was just stumbled on one of these tapes. It was a blank tape. I watched it, and it was Hulk Hogan versus Papa Shango.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I fucking loved it because I saw this Papa Shango dude in like skeleton outfit being all spoopy spoopy, and I was like, I love it. I didn't give a shit about Hulk Hogan.
And then what was funny is he goes from a voodoo witch doctor to a pimp.
The whole
Right. Okay, Ollie, your turn. How did you discover wrestling in RL?
Well, I grew up in upstate New York, so WWF was pretty prominent throughout the TV stations when I was a kid. I was born in '86. I'm a millennial.
Oh, good grief.
And yeah. So instead of comic books and superheroes, I kind of liked watching TV, and wrestling was like my version of superheroes. But at the time, like I totally bought into the whole entire kayfabe thing. Like I thought it was real, this, that, and the other, and I liked watching these two men at the time in the ring like settle their differences. I'm like, oh, they're actually fighting, and I got really amped up by it. And then over time, you like the whole entire kayfabe thing like goes to the wayside. You find out that it's a work,
Mhm.
and then I thought that I would be devastated knowing that it's a work and it's a show. But once it got like told to me, like, hey, this isn't real. This is fake. It's a work. I liked it more
So
because
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was just
I
going to
was
say.
I was
I was going to say with you talking about that. What was your feelings about the curtain call?
um I was sad at the time when I figured it out, because at that point I was like, I think I had to been like maybe 12 or 13, and I knew that these specifically two characters that I really liked, one more than the other, being Razor Ramon. I'm just like, man, I'm not going to be able to like watch this dude every week anymore. It's like uh one of your favorite musicians or athletes or whatever. Like, I'm a Philly sports fan. Go Birds!
Oh no!
And it would,
Oh
yeah,
no!
and
No!
and 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 it would be like if you would buy uh your favorite player's jersey, and then you find out that the very next season that player gets traded to another team.
But you
You know what I'm
had to.
saying?
But you had.
So basically, what you're saying is you weren't really a big WCW fan. You're just a WWE fan.
No, I was a all around wrestling fan. I liked ECW, WCW, WWF, but understood at that point that because it was fake, that this was, well, not fake, because it was scripted and predetermined, that this was a character that I wasn't going to see again, and that's what made me sad.
Ah, gotcha.
Okay, but were you more impressed? Now, be honest. Were you now? Granted, I like him as Razor Ramon too, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought that once he and Nash developed, they did the outsider thing. To me, that was really what got my attention with him. I mean, I knew he was good, but once they started that outsider and the NWO thing, I mean, everybody went to levels of stardom that they never thought possible. Did you think the same thing? Did you start watching more WCW because of that, or because of the storylines?
Oh, everybody started watching more WCW, specifically because of that storyline, because it started to break into that era of, oh, you don't know what's going to happen next, like, so you have to watch
Cool.
because of the way they introduced the characters, which was very, very smart.
Mm-hmm.
You had moments like that, and it was parallel to what they did with Ravishing Rick Rude,
Oh yeah.
on that famous night where he both appeared
Mhm.
on a taped WWF Raw
Mhm.
and a live WCW
At
Nitro
the same time.
at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, and I don't think you get a moment like that without the Outsiders, and you definitely don't get the Outsiders without a moment like the
What-
curtain call.
What a lot of
So-
people don't know about Rick Rude though is he actually was on ECW, right? And then he was on a WWE at the same time too. Like they recorded an ECW thing. He came out when they showed, at least in Philly, like where I'm from. Me and you were pretty close in distance, Oliver. So when he showed up in ECW, I was there that night. He showed up, and then the next week he was on Raw when they aired the ECW on Channel 57 in Philly that night. He was on WWE, so he did it actually twice. Not a lot of people know that.
Well, that's
Yeah.
because the main was mainstream. You had TNT and you had USA at the time. And yeah, I was aware of what, because Paul, you had told me, I was aware, but it wasn't anything that, oh my God, what are we going to do? It was like, okay, it was ECW, even though people didn't know that ECW was actually the training system for WWE. Well,
Pretty
now
much, yeah.
Well, it was like a feeder system to like
Yeah.
Vince had a deal with Paul Heyman to get
Uh-huh.
like talent over and stuff like that, and Paul got like a bit of money and funding for ECW at the time. So all that does make sense. Granted, I don't think the roster entirely knew of it, which is another Paul Heyman thing.
Right. Okay.
So let me go back to you real quick, Mike, before we go next. You said that you found a tape. When did? Now I know we talked about this with KC last week. when did they like in England? Because I'm from the States. I don't know how the stuff over in England works. When did they actually start showing WWE like regularly for you to watch like every week?
So that would have been for me, at least from what I'm aware of, it would have been Attitude Era. There would have been it. They would have been on Channel 4 in super grainy, terrible vision, where you can watch WWE or WWF, and then once you got like a cable system, which is basically Sky, you could watch like recap shows on like a Sunday on like one channel. I can't remember what it is, if it's Sky or something like that. But essentially, I got like an hour and 15 minutes recap of the show most of the time, and then like for me in England, it was a lot of times I either had to catch the really shitty Channel 4 thing when it probably wasn't ideal, or catch the recap on Sundays and then hear what my mates talk about it, and then try and catch clips and stuff like that. And then when I got older and had more access to the internet, I saw a lot more. And actually, that kind of ties into my favorite fed, what we was talking about, which is ECW, because that ECW weren't available for me really. I had to internet that shit, and I loved it every time I saw it.
Okay.
It's great.
Okay, so you both kind of gave us a little bit of a background, kind of like what we have done with your with the RL. So, how did you discover SL, and then once you come into SL, how did you discover SL wrestling?
Um, I'll go. Sorry. I'll go for first on this one, just because I've got quite a bit of earlier history. Ollie's history is quite significant too, but like essentially for me, when I first discovered SO, I think, and this is going to be a little emo, and this is kind of like a little bit of a message for some people out there in SL, but essentially, I went on SL around about 15, and most of my school, well, not most of my school life, but a bit of my school life, I was just the skinny runt. So I got bullied quite a lot. So I didn't have as much of a social outlet. So I used SL a little bit for that, and I was starting to get obviously spend most of my time on SL because of that, and I was actually starting to get used to and talk to people. And one of those outlets was SL Wrestling, because essentially through my travels in SL, I realized there's possibly some form of wrestling in, because I just searched wrestling in like group chat, and there was like this thing that only some really old school people will only be aware of. It's called SL WWE, and or WWE SL. And actually, let me dial back a little bit to like how old I am for SL wrestling. I think SL wrestling's been around for 17 years, and I think I've been in SL for 18. I think. I'm probably about 19 actually. Wow. Yeah, something like that. But essentially, there was a thing called WWSL, and basically, what you're supposed to go in, you're supposed to 100% mimic real life wrestlers, and they had this shitty wrestling system, which cost you about 10,000 lindens to buy it. You had to individually buy the system, which was owned by the guy that ran the Fed, I think. I'm
Okay,
not
wait,
too
wait,
sure
okay,
about
okay.
that one.
Let me back up just for a second on this. Now, when I first came into SL, pose ball wrestling was just phased out. So this was before pose ball.
So this was during Pose Ball. So SLWWE was about, as I said, about 17, 18 years ago. It was just basically this one guy. He made this system with really bad animations, and he sold them for like 10,000 lindens for this system. No one bought it. No one bothered. And but the thing is, that's why I guess this person made this SLWWE and started promoting this thing. It's like, oh, everyone buy my system, please. And eventually that all phased out. And from there, a couple wrestlers from there actually messaged me and saying, "Hey, dude, I know this fell through, and you wanted to be Mick Foley and stuff like that, and the all hardcore and stuff. But there's this other Fed that started to crop up that you might want to be a part of." And that Fed was SLCW, which was ran at the time by Alpin Chris and Ivan Halfpine. Alpin Chris, as some people might be aware, is the person that made the original gesture-based system
Yes.
that we're all aware of.
Yes.
And essentially, I joined SLCW literally the second show as a commentator. Misaki, as you alluded to in the lobby before we started the show, she's actually even more of a veteran than me because she was she was day one SL like wrestling as we know it.
Oh
Because she was on the
wow.
very first card.
Oh
Yeah,
wow. That means I can't call Bannock Og old anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Saki here is big vet. As thing is like I always say she's more vet than me, but then as any other vet says, Mike, you're day one too. You're just day two. There's not much of a difference, Mike.
24 hours, right?
Yeah, it's but essentially I saw this wrestling, went to commentate, and then started to train up to wrestle. Alpin Chris taught me how to use the system, and we just progressed from there.
Okay.
And to be fair, the thing is though, like the old wrestling system, it was awful. Dog, because you only had about 10 animations. You had like a punch, you had a like Irish, and mate, the Irish whip, it moves you for you, so you always clip through the ropes, all that stuff.
Wow.
And the climb elbow drop, it climbs for you, and then it propels you forward, and then it's like, why? So you have to like exactly time them in the middle of the ring.
So in other words, the old system was creating the lags that we have to do lag tweaks for now that were not even present then. It just created them.
Yeah, and you just had to be really creative to get anything going. I can probably link some old matches at some point, but
Yeah.
Effectively that's how I started, and it was quite funny. I'll get back onto Ollie because this will lead into Ollie a little bit.
Okay.
I obviously, as you can tell, me and Ollie are anthropomorphic furries. When I first went to SLCW, I was a very primitive dragon. So I was wrestled in Anthro for like a month, and because they did allow furries to wrestle, and I would say, so technically I am the second furry wrestler in SL wrestling as we know it. There's
okay.
the first is someone called Bugger Sean. They only wrestled as a lion, Anthro lion once. I wrestled as an Anthro dragon for about a month or two. So did a little bit longer. But essentially we all went human, and I had to like wear a wrestling mask and all that stuff. But it all progressed from there. And but the thing is, with when we went human, there was like no furries for a long time in SL wrestling. Even when it went public, there just wasn't any wrestling anthros because everyone was like human only. And then so for the longest time, just like furries just didn't bother because it didn't feel like a place for them sometimes. And even if they were furries, they had to just, like disguise themselves as humans. And eventually there was an SL wrestling fed called FWF, which was run by a guy called Rocco.
Yeah, I know Rocco. I know Rocco.
Yeah, and bless him, he tries. There is one thing back in the day because it's very early days with FWF, because there wasn't many furries who was able to bounce off other furries. Like that, the product was. I only watched one show, and then as a furry, I didn't really want to watch that much more. It was a situation, but then there was a situation where um, Oliver might be able to speak a bit more highly on it because he has a lot more influence in this. Because furries eventually got very good and very on par, and this was when I went off to university to do 3D animation for VFX and modeling. But for the rest of the furry era, I will let Oliver take over with his start in SL wrestling.
Okay. Ollie, now for you said that. So how did you discover and then excuse me, and then put yourself and blend in there with Mike?
Yeah, so as far as SL goes, one of the underlying memes is it's actually the furry community that keeps the lights on in this place. And I discovered it just because of the furry community. I've been on SL, I think, since like 2011, actually. Um, and I found it by happenstance. I had just gotten my D214. That's the little paper you get whenever you finish your service with the military here in the United States. I was enlisted for 5 years, and I moved back home with my parents at the time, and I was just vibing in my room. I was playing video games, and I was looking at a couple of friends' art that they had on a site called DeviantArt, and I started to see all of these like 3D renders, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know you did 3D modeling, but all right. And when I asked them about it, they're just like, no, we just found this thing called Second Life, and I'm just like, oh, is that like IMView? And they're like, no, well, yes, but no. And then I had just um, gotten a decent enough computer at the time to be able to download it, and that is how I started making friends and found my way on here. And then at the time, there was not like much to do except go to different hangouts or whatever, and they had like clubs and DJs, and that's what I did. And I say DJ, um, I mean I put together a playlist of my songs that I liked at the time, and I broadcasted them over a shoutcast server using Winamp, and hung out with my friends and listened to music. And I did
my
that
God.
for a long period of time until about 2019. Yeah, late 2019, 2020, when I was DJing at a club that was actually on this sim here, ironically, coming full circle, called Pounce. And they had Rocco's Fed, FWF, and they did their Monday show there every Monday. And I just assumed it was like post ball wrestling. Like, oh, cool, they have like a little furniture ring, and then there's like a dialogue box, and they write their matches out, and they use like the baked in furniture animations, and they use it to tell a story, whatever. And then I was curious one Monday, and I went to a show, and I was blown away, and I kind of like loved it because I realized when they went out of the ring and then back into the ring, like, oh no, like they're controlling their avatars. Okay, so how are they doing this? And I couldn't figure it out. And one of my friends at the time was a trainee in Rocco's Fed. And I'm just like, hey, you got to get me in. And as anybody here in the audience that's my friend or knows me, uh, once I get very curious and hyper focused about something, I will not shut up about it until I either find out the answer or we stop being friends.
I mean, does it really have to? In all honesty, does it really have to be something that you're focused on? I mean, I don't know that you've ever been lost at words.
Yeah, if it's something that I like, I will hyper focus on it forever. Because if it's a thing that doesn't bring me joy, I could get very excited about it, and then I will just like memory dump it off to the side, and then it
Yeah,
just won't exist to me anymore.
I'm the same way. Yep.
So I bothered my friend for months to like, hey, get me in, because I'm coming from a fan, like an appreciation of wrestling in the real world. So I didn't know how open it was. Like I thought, like, okay, this is a work, this, that, and the other. Like it's got to be old school. You have to know somebody to like give you the pass to go in. So I don't hear anything about it for like months. And it's like, what's up? What's the problem? And they eventually just kind of like went off to their wayside, kind of quit SL altogether. So I'm like, great. I go to the next show and I talk to uh, Dante at the time, and I bothered him about it over and over and over again until he eventually like acquiesced and let me in. And that Fed was FWF, who I just want to take the time to congratulate. They had their 25th anniversary show last night.
Oh,
And I know we
wow!
were just talking
Wait!
yeah,
25?
yeah, 25. And I was letting Mike finish his story because I could give a little bit more insight as to why Furry and Anther Wrestling was the way it was when he saw it, and it relates to it being 25 years old. So, FWF, or the Furry Wrestling Federation, was a holdover from another social platform in the furry community called Furcadia that shut down. And in Furcadia, it was Rocco, like the same guy, running FWF, the same Fed, and they had their own RP like wrestling matches with the same characters in Furcadia. And then when Furcadia started to shut down, he moved his Fed, himself, and his characters with some of his friends over to Second Life. And then they came up with Second Life Wrestling. Rocco already had a Fed with friends who had wrestlers who wanted to continue to wrestle, and that's how FWF started. And the reason it might not have been of the same flavor or done in the same way as all of the other human feds trying to figure it out is because they were already doing this in like an RP setting with their characters way before Second Life. So while the human side was trying to push boundaries and figure out like what works with these animations, what works with these gestures whenever it finally got to like the gesture phase of it, Rocco just wanted to have fun with his friends and do what they did in Furcadia. So that was their approach to the performance. So it's not like at the time it was a better or a worse thing. It was just something different. And then eventually as time went on and a lot of time had to go on, uh, the the style kind of evolved to the point where not only were the Anthro wrestlers on par with the rest of the other feds as they were doing their own thing, I think we were pushing boundaries with it. So that's a little bit of the history as far as
I
like
never knew that.
Anthro. Yeah, that's why last night FWF celebrated their quarter of a century anniversary show, 25 years, existing longer than SLPW. Fun facts. Yeah, very cool. I think.
And I'll point out saying FWF. I did actually catch one or two of their shows like recently, and yeah, no, they are on par. Like I saw them, I was entertained. I enjoyed it. Thank you, Rocky. You know, so it's definitely Anthro wrestling has progressed so far to how it used to be. Like before, the fact is now Anthro wrestling is hybrid feds are now a thing, and just seeing like even furries like turn up into like just full on human feds just doing cameos, like with how we had a couple people do shows at VWE, which is a human fed.
So I have a question. And either you can answer or both of you can have your own perspective on it. But I've been to a lot of shows. I participate in a lot of shows, charity shows. On the human side mostly. Me and Dante, I'm friendly. Me and Dante work together in Premier Wrestling, and I remember him telling me, "Hey, you should come and check out one of the Furry shows, whatever." I went to a Furry show, and I was astounded by how many people show up to your shows. I mean, I've been to shows where a lot of people, but it was like, oh my god, there was like you guys were drawing like 100, almost sometimes over 100 people, like just for this weekly show. What is the difference between the Furry community and the Furry wrestling community, I should say, and then the human fed wrestling community? What's the is the Furry community like more like
It's a bit more like I think with furry wrestling, furries are attracted to other furries doing things. Like if essentially if it's some representation of the furry community, it's it's benefit, like they'll want to at least have a look at it. And as for us, actually Raven points out we're actually hybrid rather than full on furries, but in essence, there's also like other outlets that furries have to promote, because I do know some people, like I think some furries came into SL wrestling strictly from our Fur Affinity. I think there was some wrestlers in SL Wrestling that has like some of their art on Fur Affinity, and they have like promoted like SL Wrestling with SL Wrestling screenshots, and I've heard of people coming in through there, but also people like just come in through watching YouTube, and they can just be like, "Oh, wrestling with furries. What is this SL?" Because this is the thing. We've heard quite a few people, like especially furries, who have like come into SL just to do SL wrestling because they saw a clip online.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's how I started. I watched I seen a video, and I'm like, I thought it was a video game.
So
I did research. Go ahead, Oliver.
in the biggest part of that boom it was like I would say it was a mixture of a perfect storm, if you will, because uh, it happened right as I started to get into it and get like up and going, and I want to use the right words to accurately describe it. So bear with me as I give a couple uhs and ums. But uh, that show that I mentioned that I found of FWF on Mondays at Pounce was the most popular SL wrestling show
Yeah.
going at the time. But FWF runs 3 shows. They run shows on Fridays, Sundays, and Mondays, and they're all at the same times as UFWs now. And the shows on Sundays and Fridays did not have those numbers. We would do like, what was it, or even like 75 to 80 people on a Monday night at Pounce. And then on Fridays and Sundays, it would be like 25 to 30 people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the reason why that happened with the furry side, especially, is like I mentioned before, furries kind of keep the lights on for Linden Lab. And there was only so much to do. Like you can only go to so many sandboxes or clubs at the time before you're just like, okay, like this is kind of the same thing. So it represented like something new to do with your friends, because we got a lot of good penetration from and overlap from the stuff going on at the club and Pounce. And they would do a really good job of like, hey, we're gonna put these guys on in prime time, and we're gonna shuffle and shuttle our entire crowd from this part of the sim over to their show. And I started to look at it, and I'm just like, oh, well, if I went out and I made friends at all of these sims and different like hangouts and stuff, and tell them like, hey, so I found this thing, this is what I'm doing now, it's really cool. At the very least, you can come and like make fun of my character because it's a heel at the time, and we can just talk shit and bust balls. So if you want to come on Monday, like I'll ping the Discord and I'll send out mass TPs, and it would be cool if you guys would like take pictures with my character, and like we can go back and forth on Twitter, and then we'll like retweet each other, and we can like make our own little 80s wrestler promos back and forth on Twitter. And again, this was like during the pandemic, so nobody was going anywhere. Like everybody was just so everybody was just on the computer trying to disassociate, and if you looked over to your phone, you were doom scrolling because like COVID was happening. So I'm just like, well, let's put all of our pictures and everything on Twitter, because everyone's going to be doom scrolling on there anyway. So it might be like a fun distraction. And then uh, I just kept doing that week after week after week after week after week.
Yeah, I remember.
And
I remember. Yeah.
I was, like I said before, if I find something that I really like and I hyper focus on it, I'm not going to stop. So I didn't. It was like every day.
That's what I mean. I remember I did a commentary, and I have a question for Mike after I say this. I did commentary. It was for a charity show. It was probably around the same time, like 2020. And you were on it. It was like for the cats or the pets or something. I can't remember what it was called off the top of my head.
Missile foe.
Missile foe. That's it. Right. And
was,
I remember, and I never. Now again, I had to go back. Like I'm maybe 3 or 4 months into my SL thing. I'd never been on SL. Don't know nothing. So I really didn't know much about the furry, like the furry community or nothing like that. But that show was like a hybrid of both human and furries and everything. And I remember you coming out, and I mean, you just talk so much shit, and I'm like, wow, man, this guy's actually pretty good. I think I was doing commentary with Tomahawk, and I was like, kind of like selling you, like I'm like, not, I want to say fanboying, but I was like, wow, man, this guy's really good. And you were like talking shit and all this stuff, and you really got all that crowd, like you got that crowd going, and I'm like, man, this guy's pretty good. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's how me and you started talking, I think, after that show, because I think I might have sent you a message saying, yeah, man, I really enjoyed what you were doing and everything. Yeah. But yeah, I remember that. So this is for Mike. So Mike, you were talking about a little earlier about the animations and how the animation sucked, and what a lot of people don't know, probably maybe in our audience, maybe on the human side of it, is you're a big creator of the animations. So how did you get into that? How did you get in and say, hey, I'm going to start doing animations and things like that?
So obviously it's not just me. Obviously, Ollie is also an animator.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, curious animations. But no, so with me when I first started, essentially my starting in animation was slightly aggressive virtual like being virtual or aggressive, but then trying to be like nice. Essentially, sorry for the stammer there. I was trying to get my words together, but essentially, back in the past, there wasn't really much in the ways of custom animations. There was one person that used a program called QAV, which is a very basic animation program, and they started selling not even custom animations. They were just selling animations, like new animations. The issue is they did corner the market because there was the only one there, and they was charging things like, from what I saw, the price that I saw at the time, it was like 2,000 lindens for like a move you wouldn't pay 2,000 lindens for now, put it that way. But it was what it was back in the day. And essentially I saw all this and I was like, this feels a bit wrong. But then I understand economics. He was the only person in town. So essentially I just kind of did it on my own back and started animating myself and started selling things for way cheaper. I basically intentionally undercut just to drive the prices down for that sole very reason. It was, I think I charged like 300 linden for something, but essentially after that, prices got a bit more steady, and I realized I like this stuff, and I ended up starting progressing, getting better and better at it. And then I eventually got into something with like mocap cameras and stuff like that, and I started like got really into that, and I started realizing I'm getting okay at this. And once I started implementing mocap, like people were starting to buy my moves and like quite a lot. And then I realized like I need to make this a career. Like so that's where I went to university and did 3D animation and modeling for VFX and video
Oh wow.
games.
So Second
Yeah,
Life did that for you, like just doing the animations, wanted you to pursue that as a career for your real life.
1,000%, a thousand
Wow.
percent.
Wow. That's pretty
Um,
cool.
this is where, like I said before in my previous message, previous thing about me starting SL wrestling being socially awkward and using this as an outlet, it's progressed into me pursuing skills, like an actual skill that can make me money and help better my life. And it's one of those things where like stuff one of the reasons why I've got so much of a love for SL wrestling, and I want it, and it's why I'm a bit of a hippie when it comes to things, and I want to help everyone because I want everyone to enjoy this hobby like I have, and hopefully have some stories like that.
Wow.
But essentially, yeah, I went to university and I got what's classified as the first class honors. That's basically A plus, essentially. And yeah, the only reason I'm not in been trying the games industry is because I had some like RL things. But now that's kind of out of the way, so I'm actually trying to push it a bit more and actually maybe get into some games.
Now, how about you, Ollie? How did you? What made you get into the animation part of it?
Spite mostly.
Same as me.
Sounds like a lot of times when feds spring up out of nowhere, it was out of spite because somebody was mad at somebody.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, you're gonna find that anywhere. But that was hyperbole on my part. But and I'm having a great conversation. I'm gonna keep everything positive, and I don't need to retread ground. But kind of like how Mike said, there comes points where animating it's easy, but it's also incredibly difficult. It's easy to make an animation. It's difficult to make an animation that somebody would want to pay for.
Right.
And at the time that I started, which was honestly not that long ago, it's like maybe a year and a half ago, um, there was a lot of stories coming out about people being priced out of animations. And that is really unfortunate because the barrier for entry into this hobby is already fairly high. I'd say equally high on the human side and the anthro side because just to put together an avatar, you're asking somebody to a good one Like you're asking somebody to probably spend like $15 to $20 American easy just to get all the components for it. And we have like over 300 animations that are just included like open source for free with the wrestling HUD and system that we use, which nobody had to donate, and they did. And we, as a community, should forever be grateful for that because I understand how much work it does just to make one of them. But to get anything uh, on top of that, some people were being asked to spend close to like $35, $40 just for like one move or one
Yeah.
animation. And it's like the McDonald's hash brown.
Animation.
Yeah, 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 like 5,000 Linden. And it's like I compared it to the McDonald's hash brown problem with inflation. Uh so McDonald's hash browns used to be like two hash browns for $1, and
Right.
McDonald's upcharge them to $3.19, but they keep them there because their hash browns are so good. People will just pay $3.19 for them and not think about it. So they just keep it there, and they'll lose their customers that don't want to pay that and don't see the value in that, but they'll still make money because there are people that are kind of like the gotcha gaming industry calls them whales, and they'll still pay. So not only will they break even, they'll probably end up making more money if they do it like that, and that was wrong. So I started to make very basic and rudimentary animations that weren't very good. I would make them and think they were awful and horrible, and they were just like your first timer animations. And Mike helped me out a lot. I would send him because I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't go to school. Like I was just playing around with it and messing around. And I'd send things to Mike, and he'd be like, "That's good, but you should do it like this." And then he would explain this is why. And there's another one of my friends who's an amazing artist and does animation as well, and was one of my friends when I started SL Wrestling. Her name is Wisteria Bell. She's fantastic. I love her. And she would explain the intricacies of the principles of animation with me. Like I would show her something that I did, and it would be like a very linear animation, and it would just stop on a frame, and she'd be like, "Well, you should overshoot that." And I'm like, "What's overshoot?" And she's like, "Oh, well, if you take the ending frame there and then move your character forward a little bit and then make it snap back to where it was, it gives the sensation of like weight, like because it's going to continue to go forward and go back." And I'm just like, "Oh, when you explain it like that makes sense. I'll do that."
So
And
you're kind of like me on some things. It's like you can say it, but you have to break it down piece by piece before your brain registers.
yeah, if you explain something to me and tell me what it is, I'll be like, "Okay, that's cool," and I'll parrot the information back to you by like rote memorization. But I won't understand the concept, and I'll have to ask you over and over again until you can like explain to me why something happens. But I
Okay.
kept at it, and I got really good at it comparatively for like a novice or a journeyman. And I would just come home and it would be like my bonsai tree from work. I would just throw on music and I would just like tweak little things and like try to quote unquote perfect things and play with things and just work at it over and over again like a hobby. And then I would put it out, and to my surprise, like people would start buying them. And not only would they start buying them, they would ask me to make them things for them specifically. And I'd be like, "Oh, cool. Well, if I do that for you, can I just like also sell it later?" And then they were like, "Yeah, that's fine." And that was my inspiration. So I kept at it and I kept at it, and got to the
So
point. No, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
And yeah, so I was gonna finish by saying not the desk or the chair, but it got to the point where after 1 year, this ring and all of these chairs and this arena and the belts that we have for LPW and everything for this Second Life Fed was funded by the community, because all of the linden that I would make from selling animations, I never cashed out. I never pocketed $1. I kept it on a bank alt in this community, in this ecosystem, and I commissioned people in the community to create things for us. Like I commissioned this arena to get built from scratch, and all of that was funded 100% by the sale of the animations I would make for the community, offered at a competitive and reasonable price with uh, the intent to help people instead of see them as like a means to profit, and as part of my way of like giving back. I'll never forget how cool the whole community was to me and everyone as a whole for that. So that's the thing I'm most proud of about this place
Yeah,
was.
you guys got a great thing going here, man.
All right,
Yeah,
so
good.
listen. All right, so listen up, guys. We're coming up close to the Q&A section. So I just want to really quick let everybody know, if you're listening in the Discord, you're going to be able to. We're going to call you in alphabetical order by how you're lined up, and you can get on voice and you can ask the question. However, the question will have to be repeated for everybody who's in world who can't hear. Then we got the people in world who you all need to, if you have a question, get it ready, put it into local, and then we will alternate between voice and local, and and Z is going to read everything that comes from local. Paul and I'll take care of everything that gets asked in Discord so local can hear. And this going to be, and guys, I'll tell you right now, any question you want to ask Ollie and Mike, you go right ahead. But remember, they do not have to answer them. So kind of keep that in mind. So while everybody's getting their questions going, quick fire from me to both of you. Best
Go for it.
best match you ever had. NSL, best match you ever had.
Do you want
I
me to go
can,
first? Or you?
yeah, I'll take the lead, and it might be kind of weird. I could pick between like 3 or 4 of them, but my favorite match I ever did was with a wrestler from the UK in my previous Fed UFW by the name of Lunaria. And it's not for the reason that you might think. So, the reason my match as Oliver Wonderful with Lunaria is my favorite match is because of the card trick. I looked at Lunaria as a character. She's a crooks, and crooks are basically like a mischievous science experiment gone wrong. And I looked at Lunaria as like a character and as a wrestler, and I realized that I didn't need to like recreate Steamboat versus Flair necessarily with this character and go to like a 60-minute Broadway or a 60-minute time limit draw. So I played to the strengths of the character, and I'm like, how am I going to make this like a Saturday morning cartoon? And I don't know if you're familiar with like Chris Angel or David Blaine,
Yeah.
like street magicians, but I thought to myself, let's like play with this and make a magic trick the focal point of this entire match, because the character backstory I gave Oliver Wonderful is he is like a grunge punk rock variant of Wonderland in an alternate universe that ended up in this reality. And trying to fund his way to make it back to Wonderland, he became like a sleight of hand street magician on the streets, living out of his car. So he's very much like a punk rock David Blaine. So I was like, I'm gonna make Lunaria beg me to do a magic card trick for the match. And I was like, okay. So I set together and I pieced together this Second Life magic trick for the first spot, and it wouldn't work. Like the story was like it didn't work, and Lunaria was mad about the card trick not working, and they started to crash out and beat my ass for like another 7 minutes because I was an awful magician. And then at the end of the match, I made the magic trick work. So it was like it was a pick a card trick. The pick a card wouldn't work. I kept on guessing the wrong card, and I had set it up with my friend Kine and my friend Harley, uh, to make this magic trick work. So I gave all of my friends a scripted sign to hold in the crowd. And I wouldn't tell them what it was, but I was like, during my match, just hold this sign. It would make things look really cool for the camera. So there was like 17 to 25 people holding these signs in the crowd. And at the end of the third spot, during the comeback, I would tell Lunaria as he has me in a neck crank to check the referee's pocket. And they reached into the ref's pocket and they pulled out the King of Hearts, which was the card that they drew. And I'm like, but that's not the one that you signed. I know I asked the audience not to give me any help or tell me what the card was, but if you guys could give me a sign, that would help. And then I set up a gesture to where I would snap my fingers, and when I snapped my fingers, the texture on everybody's sign in the crowd switched to the King of Hearts.
Wow.
So everybody in the crowd, which was like 85 to 90 people that had these signs up, when I snapped, it changed to the card instantly. And then Lunaria is standing there dumbfounded. And I did a little prep work before that, and then I directed their attention to the big media screen in the UFW arena, and I went through the trouble of rendering a 3D video in After Effects, uh, set to the tune of "Do You Believe in Magic" by the Lovin' Spoonfuls in an 8-bit cover. So these cards would appear on the screen that I rendered in After Effects, and the last card that appeared was the same King of Hearts, but this time it was the King of Hearts with Lunaria's signature on it.
Wow, that's crazy.
On the
That's really
screen.
crazy.
And then he's staring at this screen, and then I ran up behind them, and I'm like, all right, now it's time for me to take a bow. And then I hit him with a backslide, 1, 2, 3, and then I bolted out of the ring. I took a bow, and I ran to the back. And that's one of my favorite wrestling matches.
All right, so much for quick answers.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're
An
fine.
honest answer.
Okay, Mike, your turn. Favorite match?
Yeah, favorite match. So there's I would say 2 really at the moment. So one of them's an old school dancer. It was back in DCWF. It was a guy called Warroop, who's also like an original hardcore wrestler. We had a mask versus mask match. And with the limited animations we had in the hood, we actually made a lot of fun because we climbed the stage, because we had a custom stage. We crashed into some into like a shed and broke it, and at the end spot was I hit Warroop in the face with a baseball bat, and it shattered, and part of the shard went into his eye, and then obviously I pinned him 1, 2, 3, and he was partially blinded at the end of that match. But as for a modern context, it's actually funny enough. Is he in the crowd at the moment? If he is,
Who you looking for?
Meerkat.
Oh.
I had a match with Meerkat / Alex Calhera at Pain Inc. To be fair, all the matches I've had at Pain Inc. have been great. But I really liked that match because it helped solidify Mike's character as like a fucking psycho that's trying to kill you.
Okay.
Because essentially, I did a lot of hardcore spots there. I put Meerkat through tacks. And he wears a mask, so I stapled his mask onto his face, so he's got loads of staples stuck into him through his mask. And then I got a pizza cutter, and it basically attempted to cut the top of his face off, so it takes the mask off with him, and then he got saved essentially. It's just, it was a good gnarly match, and it made me feel good that how far I've came in like developing hardcore spots because of like my knowledge in 3D and all that stuff.
Okay, so yes or no question. Did you do the spot with the staples? Well, I should say actually the question would be before or after. The spot with the staples, did you come up with before or after the movie The Wrestler came out, where in the Indie League they used staples in their hardcore match?
Well, like, I just love staples. I love CCW. I love Japanese wrestling. It's brutal. That's exactly the reason why.
Okay, copy. All right, now everybody's had time to get their questions together. Z, have you got anything from local?
Let me take a look here and see.
Oh boy.
I don't know if I really want to ask that one.
Oh
my goodness, Misaki.
What?
So while Z's looking, I have something. So tell us real quick how you guys started LPW. Like, what was how you guys got it started, when you guys agreed on it, and how did that all go about?
Did you want to do it or me, Ollie?
Yeah, I can do it.
It was out of spite.
I've wanted to run a Fed for the longest time, years in fact, and it just never worked out because for one reason or another. And I had an idea. I wasn't quite sure what that idea was. I knew that if I had friends that I knew that if I told my friends I was doing a show, that they would like jump at it and they would keep begging me. Samantha being one of them. Actually, now that they're here, and it got to the point where, and this is really funny. Um, the Kendrick Lamar and Drake rap beef happened this past May, and I started being like, yeah, you know what? You know what? Fuck it, let's go. I'm gonna make my Fed, and because I got tired of waiting around, and in the span of like 4 or 5 days, I hyper focused and I got Mike, and I'm like a day or two afterwards, like, hey Mike, do you want to do this? And I said the plan of what I wanted it to look like, and Mike was just like, yeah, let's go. And from there, we got everybody together, and it was off to the races.
Yeah, I'll kind of expand a little bit on there. Then we can get on to the questions, etc. Obviously, he came to me wanting to do this Fed, and for me, I was a bit like, "Oh, I've never done a Fed before." But I felt with some of my 3D talents and stuff like that, I thought I might as well help him. And I kind of, when I was first doing it, I was still wrestling at other Feds and stuff like that, and my real life was a little bit more hectic. But as time progressed, I actually ended up doing a lot more than I thought I was going to do for the Fed. I've been doing a lot of production stuff, but essentially, when this Fed started, Ollie's got his friends that was involved, but then I've also got some of my friends that I prodded and asked and stuff like that, because quite a lot of, with us being a hybrid Fed, we've got like furries and humans. Obviously, we're both friends with humans and furries, but Ollie has got quite a lot of contacts with like a lot of friends with the furry community, even though we're both furries. It's just because of how he was starting, and I had quite a lot of contacts on the human side, just because I was been around for fucking ages. So it ended up getting a good mix. We've had a lot of people who's never mixed before actually getting along with each other, who and I do get messages from our roster saying like thank you for inviting me here, because I'm now with loads of other people that are like amazing in the ring. I love it, and stuff like that just warms my heart a little bit.
It's the best part. We've had, I don't want to like keep bragging. It's not bragging, or I don't think, but like, I've had people on our team send me messages personally, thanking me, not for like just giving them an opportunity, but for like starting this Fed in particular, because they would be like coming from the human side, and then they never got a chance to like think about the anthro side or work with any of these people, and they told me that it like rekindled their interest and love for the community, and that like just being able to be given the opportunity to grow and perform meant the world to them, and it wouldn't have happened without this Fed. And when that started happening on a fairly regular basis, I resigned in my mind that it doesn't matter what happens to LPW going forward, even though I think that we're getting better and better every week, which is blowing my mind. But at that point, this Fed was a success, and that's all I ever wanted to do with it.
Absolutely.
All
So then
right.
we got a question, BK.
Yeah, I know he's kind of hesitant, but we are kind of unfiltered here. We said that before. So what's the question
No,
from?
no, I'm not asking that first one, because I'm swearing to myself that that one was just a joke.
Okay.
But we do have a question from Jet in the audience here.
Okay.
What is the biggest downfall of new wrestlers in SL wrestling?
Oh.
By downfall, do you mean like? Can you expand on what you mean by downfall? Because I have
Maybe
a lot of different answers
maybe
for that.
challenges you guys have with dealing with the stuff. Is that maybe?
I mean,
I would say biggest downfall for me, I would say, now looking as an owner coming in, it's obviously it sounds weird taking things way too seriously, in the sense of you're spelling your own farts. It's, basically you've got to, obviously doing this hobby is it takes work, it takes brain power, it takes doing all these little nitty gritty things, and that's something to be proud of, definitely, and it's something to drive yourself to do better. So you take it seriously in terms of performance, but as in when you're like LARPing, I say actually that's the biggest sentence really. LARPing, I would say, is a big downfall for new wrestlers when they kind of get into the fantasy too much and essentially become dicks because of it. Like they think they're real life, like they're real life wrestlers and stuff like that, and they think they can be a certain way with people, and they think that hierarchy actually exists in this hobby, like it's like real life. And I'm like, mate, if it's real life, you all suck, because if it's real life, you don't make any money, you're a shitty draw, and that's what real life wrestlers care about. It's not about that. It's about having fun with this shit. Have
Yep.
fun.
I agree.
Yeah, I think the whole entire drawback that might not be apparent to most people, that I would give advice to myself 4 years ago about having fun, is understanding when it comes to like veterans who to listen to and who to not let dictate your level of fun that you have with what you're doing and the time that you're putting in. Some people don't want to be hyper focused and fixate on this, and they just want to come in here and they want to do their characters and have fun with their friends and then leave, and that's fine. Do that. But the second that you start listening to people saying that you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to do this, that, and the other, otherwise you're not going to have fun, and like it becomes miserable for you, like you need to at that point like find another group, because having fun should be the first and foremost thing. And if you allow other people to drag you down, it's going to kill your enthusiasm and your enjoyment of one of the things that I love the most. And you deserve better than that. So you need to give yourself a fighting chance.
Okay, fair enough. All right, for those of you here in attendance, we actually have in Discord the owner of Premier Wrestling, Vince Aftermath, who also is a sponsor of our podcast, and we thank them very much. And now LPW has officially become a sponsor of our podcast. So make sure you check out all the shows once we get all the information. We're brand new, so we're still learning a few things. But we have Vince in Discord, and when Vince asks his question, we will relay it so that you all know what's going on, so you know what the answer is. Vince, what you got?
Hey, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Thank you, BK and Paul and Z, for putting on such an amazing, this is what we needed right here, an amazing week-to-week podcast, amazing stuff. So, just
Okay,
wanted to
so
tell you all that.
so for
Thank you
those
all
of you
so
in,
much.
so for those of you in attendance, Vince is kind of ass kissing right now, telling us how great this podcast is. But anyway, he's getting to his question. Here we go.
And congrats to you, Mike and Oliver, for getting your organization together and things like that. That's awesome. I love to see it. Love to see the expansion going on. Just kind of a two-part question. How do you like kind of measure your success? Is it your attendance, your views, or is it crowd reactions? And my second kind of part to it is what are some things that you thought were easy as coming in as a Fed owner that was a little bit more challenging when you actually started, doing day-to-day operations and things like that? All right, I'll be quiet now.
Okay, so what Vince asked was, what does Mike and Ollie use to measure the success? Are they talking about, how many people they have on the roster, how many people are come to the shows, donations? Just want to know what their measuring stick is for themselves. And then the second part of this question, and he had a two-part question. The second part was coming in as Fed owners. What was something that they thought would be easy that ended up being the most challenging?
I would say obviously Ollie might be a bit different on measuring of success, but for me personally, it would be enjoyment of everyone involved. From that goes from the fans and the wrestlers. If I know that everyone is having a great time and enjoying and loving this, then that's amazing for me. And a lot of the times, having that mentality shines through to fans, because if the wrestlers are enjoying what they're doing and having a great time, the more they're going to promote the show, going to tell it to their friends, going to be like, hey, I really had a great, I have a great time here. I'm going to do some really cool. I'm going to put all the stops. Can you come watch me perform? And then they'll come perform. And then also you'll get other fans that just who are not related to anyone, but then they actually see that everyone's enjoying themselves both after the show and during the show, and then they come keep repeat watching. And even if like we had like 120 people watching just to go through the motions and not enjoying themselves, then I think that's shitty success. I think it's enjoyment is one of the biggest things for me. I'll let Ollie answer the first question as well.
I'm gonna knock on wood so I don't jinx myself here. But as far as the measurement of success goes, there's a very specific answer and kind of like a general one. The general one is attendance, crowd size, crowd reaction, engagement to the product, all of that. I can say that on our debut show, outside of another Fed that I helped open, Valiant Wrestling, rest in peace. I think we broke first show attendance records. We capped our sim here. There was like 99 people, 100 people for our debut show. So that was incredible. We don't have applications for LPW. Like you can't really apply to be here. So the reason that we would get more people to come in is because we have other wrestlers from other feds asking us to be a part of what we're doing, and we have people doing it week over week over week, which is another measure of success. The biggest measurement of success that I've had so far, though, is I'm going to shout her out because she's been amazing. There's a wrestler that we have here, and she's kind of a rookie. She hasn't been doing it very long. Her name is Misa. She plays a character here called Ophelia. She wrestles at another Fed, Digital Anthro Wrestling, DAW. And from the time our first show happened, and she had 2 matches with some of the legends that we've brought in here, legends like Misaki, legends like Mike, and people, I don't want to like to call myself a legend because that's like bad form, but like I've been doing this a while, and I was showing her like how to do certain things in the ring and how to move around differently when you're wrestling. And Misa told us that after just 2 shows with us, going back to her other Fed, people were asking her what happened because there was like a noticeable level up in her level of execution and performance. And I can directly attribute that to her time here. And all those things together, on top of the story I told before about people thanking us just for making the Fed, it's already a success. And that I'll take that with me forever. And the biggest difficulty I've had so far is like, for the first cycle, like the first couple months, I've done all of the creative for the most part. Like all of the stories for the tag team, the women's title, the men's title that's still going on. Well, no, Mike helped and wrote out the Deathmatch Kumite stuff, the Deathmatch tournament, but everything else was kind of like my idea, like what we're doing with Emma Gray currently. All this other stuff, and it was all stuff that I wrote. And the challenging part was, in real life, my job is I'm a city letter carrier for the Postal Service, and in America we had a federal election in November, so I was very busy in October, and then I took a holiday to Tokyo for 2 weeks in November, and I came back from there, and I'm going right into the Christmas season, so I'm working like 10 to 12 hour days, and have been working 10 to 12 hour days. And because I know in my head how I want everything to go and how the stories are going to get set up and how I want the shows to get laid out, being able to delegate that to the rest of my dodgeball team, I call them, like my small little management circle to get stuff done has been challenging, because they would ask me like, we need to get booking out, this, that, and the other, and I'm like, yeah, we do, but it's also going to take me like 45 minutes to write this out, and I would get like overwhelmed, and it was very hard to ask for help. But once I started to like understand that we know the way the other person on the team works and their characteristics and their mannerisms, and all of that gels together very well, I could trust somebody else to do something that I wouldn't normally do, like 2-3 months ago. Like I wouldn't trust them, and they would do it exactly the way that I would think without like telling them how to do it. And
Noticeably with that, it would be like me helping out with booking a bit more and with some
yeah,
delegation, or at least writing and stuff. Like,
yeah,
I think we both have issues with like delegation sometimes because we don't want it to be too stressful for other people. We tend to put stresses on ourselves. Like for me, I do a lot of production stuff, and I had to delegate some of that to Raven because I was usually making an intro video for our show every week and doing like posters and stuff like that. So Raven ended up taking lead on the posters. Um, but in general, I was going to say with challenging, that's one of them. It's just juggling your real life and this, and trying to not make anything consume like your real life. Just trying to keep that happy balance, and trying to keep everyone happy. Which, to be fair, I feel like we have been succeeding in that because we're trying, and I think it's very much shows with what we do that we are generally trying.
Okay. All right.
yeah,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
very fair, and I mean, I've never been a Fed owner or anything like that, so I personally can't say, oh, I can relate. But I do know how stressful it can be because
Yeah.
all wrestlers, all performers, and people are gonna. Some people will agree with me, and some people won't. But to an extent, we all have egos. We all are. I mean, some of us are just so far off the spectrum from each other, it's unreal. And you have to deal with all these different personalities, all these different nationalities, all these everything to put on a wrestling show. And I know it gets stressful. So to
Yeah.
me, that would be, so I get it, elevating people and then delegating authority. I get it because, you do get stressed out. I mean, I've been
Well,
around.
that's like I go ahead,
I was
continue.
gonna say, back when I first basically started my SL wrestling, and I was working for Vince. I mean, Vince and I, we got to know each other fairly well, because he entrusted me with some responsibilities. But Vince in real life, and thank God nothing's ever happened to him. But I know he's a firefighter in real life. And that's a stressful job in itself. And then he's trying to run a Fed in here. And like Mike was just saying about, got to learn to try to balance one from the other. Sometimes it's hard. And I'm not going to lie, as much as I respect it, and people want to think that I dislike Vince, and that is not the truth. I mean, he and I have bumped heads a lot. And he and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but at the end of the day, he is Vince. He is the owner of the Fed that I was in, and I had to follow his example. But there was many times where because I'm one of those people that if I get to know you in SL, I do become concerned in RL. Especially when you tell me you have health problems. The guy would be so stressed out that I honestly thought, there'd be times where I thought we were somebody's going to have to call 911 in real life because he was having trouble balancing. So I can imagine what it's like for you, being the fact you're a postal carrier, and then
Um,
and things like I can just I can't imagine what it's like trying to do that balance.
it's it's a little bit. It would be difficult here. I did want to shout somebody out specifically and a group out specifically. I think one of the secrets to make things easier for Mike and myself here in LPW specifically is that we have a team and a roster of wrestlers that intimately know the ins and outs of everybody else's characters, and they understand everybody's wrestler. And the only other place I've really seen it to the level that I see it here is somebody that I would like probably consider one of my best friends in Second Life, Felicia Zucker. Between her and Leslie over here slash Toastifer, they put on shows.
Hi.
Yeah, they put on shows under the Wrestling Fed slash Troop called Pain Inc. And the reason why their shows, I think, mirror the same level of understanding of characters in production as far as like the performances go as ours is that they're all friends that like know each other's characters very well, and they work with the strengths of the other characters to put on entertaining performances. So I could be like kind of stressed about how like, oh, how is this story going to go, how's that story going to go, but I know that if I were to put two people in this roster in the room together and say, figure out a compelling story for both of your characters, they would be able to do it on their own without much guidance or direction from us, even if they're not like a booker or a writer or a show runner or anything, because they took the time to understand the other person's character and they want to do their best to make both of them look good. And when you have that in your roster and that level of trust and commitment to putting on a good performance, you have no problem having somebody agreeing to be like the Apollo Creed to somebody else's Rocky Balboa. You need both of them to put on Rocky 2 and Rocky 1. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So that takes a lot of stress off of us.
So I want to go back to what Vince's question real quick, and just on my point of view of it, and talk about like the success. Now you talked about the success of running the Fed and all that. You know, I wrote storylines for OAW. I know how challenging that is as far as, you know, writing for other people aside from yourself. But as far as individual success, I look at it like this. This is my point of view, of course. But like, if I'm going out and I'm doing a promo, or if I'm doing something, I have everybody engaging in me. And I see, I'm like, oh man, I got these people now. And then I kind of do a promo based on sometimes people engage with me. Sometimes you see, I mean, I've been in a lot of shows and you see somebody come out and do a promo or anything like that, and nobody's saying anything. Nobody's typing in local. Nobody's doing gestures or cheering or anything. I think the level of success is if you have people that are engaging in you, that's something to capitalize on. You know what I mean? Like, you capitalize on it. They're not engaging in you, then you're doing something wrong. That they're not, like, they don't think your character's good. They don't think what you're saying is good or whatever. I kind of measure the success of, like, individually, like, at least for me, like, I got these people talking. I got these people telling me I'm an asshole. I got these people calling me all these things. If you come out and you're not, and nobody's saying nothing, maybe like that's something. All right, what do I have to work on here? Like, get these people to chat or to get these people to boo me or whatever, you know? That's how I mean, just going with individual success as far as, you know, success as a promotion.
Yeah, you actually brought up a good point that I could address that will tie into Jet's question about like drawbacks and downfalls for new SL wrestlers. Just because somebody, like, if you go out with your character and you're not getting that reaction, like you're not hearing gestures and you're not getting feedback, don't let that discourage you, because
Exactly.
you don't know what might be being said in like a group chat or a conversation between friends who are watching the show. I'm a part of 3 or 4 different Discord groups of like friend groups. Shout out Wrestling Rascals. Shout out Monster Sauce. That have specific dedicated Second Life wrestling channels and wrestling voice like channels. And even if you don't hear gestures in world as you're performing, you've got no idea how many people might be in a voice chat somewhere in a Discord call going bananas over the stuff that you're saying. And they're just talking with their friends in a voice chat and they're just not spamming gestures or whatever in world, but they're loving it. So if you don't hear anything and people are still engaging by coming back to your show and like telling you that stuff is good afterwards, but it's crickets while you're performing, don't let it discourage you, because you have no idea what people are talking about, just not in world. So don't let that. Yeah, yeah.
Really
it's something that I didn't consider. Something I didn't consider for a long time until I started seeing it.
All right, Z, do we have any more questions from local?
Let's see here. Anybody else have a question for them?
Somebody said they had a question earlier before Vince asked his question. I think.
Did they? Well, is that the one that Z said you wasn't going to read?
I think there was one after that.
Okay, well.
Yeah, that was Jet.
Okay, that was Jet.
That asked the question after.
Okay, well, we have 3 people who are listening in right now. We have Raven, we have SSL, and we have KC. Does anybody in here have any questions for either one of them? Okay, get no response. Wait. Okay, yeah, Raven says I already work here. And the questions she would probably ask get her fired anyway. And probably all kinds of stuff she wants to ask.
I'm not trying to get disqualified here.
Right?
I'm not trying to get DQ'd.
Absolutely. All right, so listen up. Now, I understand that sometimes, these shows may work backwards. We're going to post ours as soon as to our YouTube channel and everything else. And maybe people are going to listen to this, but you guys actually have a road show today, do you not?
Yes, we do.
Okay, tell us about the road show as we're getting ready to close out our show.
Well, it will be at 2 p.m. SLT at the Itaewon Sim. They're doing a Christmas, like a week-long Christmas celebration. They are if you're familiar with K-pop and like Korean pop music, they have a lot of really cool K-pop related acts over there that do performances. And one of the managers here that does the security for us, V Winchester or Vi Winchester, however you want to pronounce it. I've always called her V, and she never corrected me. Is linked with them, and they brought the owners of the Itaewon Sim over here, and they became fans of our show. So we got asked to perform for them for their halftime show today.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so we'll be there 2 p.m. SLT. Very excited about that. Always down for road shows. Anytime that we can get out and go showcase the talent that we have to new people and get them to appreciate our wrestlers like we appreciate them is something that I always will jump at the chance for.
Oh, absolutely. I totally
And you
agree with
guys
that.
run LPW every week at what's that? You guys 12 p.m. SLT.
Yeah, Sundays 12 p.m. SLT.
Yeah. Usually there. We might be after the Christmas break. We might be changing things around a little bit, but we make announcements on our Discords, our Twitter, and Blue Sky, and trying to get into Primfeed. I think we use them. I'm not sure. We're planning on doing it.
You got BK.
Oh, I don't know. I actually, honestly, I had something I was going to say, and it just went by. I totally went brain dead on that right there. I don't know what happened to me. Must not be my day with the brain.
I'll propose a question to you then. Actually, so
Wait, to who?
To you and Paul.
Okay.
So, basically in LPW, I know at one point we're going to try and get a second show where we're going to try and do cross promotions and stuff like that, because essentially, us at LPW, we don't like any like tribalism per se. We just want everyone to have fun. We want to be like a positive face in this hobby, and if there's people from other feds that haven't had opportunity to wrestle some people in our fed and vice versa, we are open to cross promotion. And that's one thing we've been doing. We might be doing with this second show is having like one show a week. If someone from another wrestling fed wants to wrestle, that slot will be open for them and stuff like that. And I was going to say to you, as much as we do have wrestlers that cross pollinate and stuff like that, do you feel more like feds working with each other is should happen more and should be more a positive thing?
Oh, absolutely. You mean as far as the community?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, because for me, my perspective, this is me being an old bastard. Way back in the day, the very first Fed was SLCW, and then it went on to the Fed after that came out was VWE, which was VAW at the time, I believe. And for the longest time, for like years, there was like Fed wars where petty drama. People were just disliking people for no good reason. And then some of them were like bad business practices, like trying to poach people directly and all that stuff. But in general, it was just petty. I hated that tribalism, and I kind of want that just to go away. There's people that dislike each other. There's some people that dislike certain things, but like tribalism as fed as itself, like why? What's the point?
Right.
There's no point. It's sad.
Well, I think one of the reasons. I mean, I'll answer real quick, BK. I think one of the reasons me and BK started this podcast is to try to get everybody involved. We try to get people from VWE, you guys, PW, everything, BCW is, we're all in the same group here. Like whether you're in the furry community or whether you're in the human community, we're all in the same group. We're all doing wrestling. We all love wrestling. We're all doing this to have fun. And to get maybe some of them things that you were saying, the tribalism or whatever, to say, like, say from one promotion to another, saying, hey, look, they have the same problems we do, getting people to do storylines, getting people to show up. They have the same problems. So maybe brings everybody together almost, as far as we're all in this together at the end of the day. We're all in this together. We're all our community, and to try to make the community stronger. It's at least one of the reasons why we wanted to do this, to hear everybody's perspective. Look, like you just said earlier in the thing, you listen to our show, you had the same kind of origin story as finding wrestling as BK did with his grandfather. You know what I mean? So we're all similar in doing this,
Well, and
Yeah,
from my point of view, it kind of goes back to something that Ollie said earlier when Paul asked him, what got you into animating, and his first word was spite. And what happens, in my opinion, is, and I understand you can't avoid it everywhere, but what happens with this whole tribal thing, in my opinion, is you get people in a Fed, and then, of course, and I'm saying this, and I don't care who you are, I don't care if you're a Fed owner, I don't care if you've been doing this for a day, I don't care if you've been doing it for a week, I don't care how long you've been doing it. There's too much bullshit backstage backstabbing drama that goes on. And then you get people, and then you get people that get, and then you get people that get mad at each other, and then all of a sudden they start breaking off and start dividing the roster, and then eventually somebody gets pissed off, breaks off. And I'm not saying this is how it happens. This is just me, putting a general picture up. You go in and they're like, okay, well, I don't like how things are going because this is not all about me, and these people are telling me how good I am, so I'm going to go start my own Fed. Well, then they bring the people over with them that's like, okay, well, you can be in this Fed, but you can't be in this one because this is for, this is for my people. And then it turns into tribalism because then everybody's like, well, I don't like the way you run it, so I'm going to do it, and I'm going to run it differently. But then Mike, stepped up and said, hey, everybody's got the same problems everywhere. And I agree. But the problems stem from one person being upset, and then two people get upset, then four people, and it multiplies. And then you end up with everybody disliking each other instead of everybody going back and saying, like, hey, wait a minute. Let's all take a breath here. Let's put all the baby bullshit behind us. Why did we get into wrestling? We're wrestling fans. Let's start over there, and then we work on chemistry, and then we work on people that, hey, look, we can have drama. It's going to happen, but let's keep the drama in the ring. Quit the stuff backstage. Quit thinking that you're more than what you really are. There are people put in place for reasons, and yes, you may have great ideas. You may have, but go through it the right way instead of saying nobody's listening to me. Oh, okay, you know what? Nobody likes any of my ideas, even though I didn't tell anybody. So I'm going to go do it my way, and then that's where the whole division comes. We need to come back as wrestling fans first.
Life's too short. Life's too short.
Yes, absolutely.
I would say like another little spiteful jab, but it's quite a clear point. Like, if you care about doing like Game of Thronesy bullshit and like backstage politicking, and you're doing like as I said before, LARPing as a bad guy. Like, if your inner monologue is, I want to do something that's being a dick out of character because I just want to, because I'm behind the screen and stuff like that, you're a virgin. Straight up, you're a virgin.
Right. Well, see,
misbehavior.
Right. Now, see, here's one thing that Paul and I. Now, here's
one of the things too is, like, you have somebody new coming in. Let's just say let's hypothetically have somebody new coming in, okay, and they're joining LPW or any other promotion. Now, I'm going with what you said, Oliver. You have a busy life. I mean, you're a mail carrier. You work crazy hours, right? You're still, after doing that, working all them hours, working all that time in your real life, paying your real life bills. You're coming on and doing this, providing them with an opportunity to be creative, providing them with an opportunity to do something that probably in real life they can't do anymore, or they're too old, or they can't, whatever. You're giving them an opportunity to come on here and have a good time. And I think people need to see that. People need to see behind the curtain of what actually goes into these shows, and how hard it is to come up with storylines for people, how hard it is to come up with things. And you're giving these people an opportunity to have a good time. And that's what we wanted people to see.
Right.
You know what I mean? And maybe it would give somebody a perspective of like, wow, man, this guy, he has a lot going on in his real life, but he's still coming on here every night to, do this for us. You know what I mean? Right. That's kind of what we want people to see. I think that was at least in my almost 5 years in this, I don't think has ever been seen before as far as how much work goes into all these shows.
Absolutely.
And I
And
just
then
want to,
and then we
before it
could.
gets,
Well, what I was going to say real quick, and I will be quick. This is a conversation that Paul and I have had many times, and we can actually go back now to Jet's question about what do you feel, basically is the downfall of today's wrestlers. And something that I've noticed, Paul and I have talked about this, they've lost. Okay, I don't want to say you lost because, in all honesty, you have to learn it as you go because it's something you develop as you go. It's part of the learning process. But a lot of them either never learned, or they don't care to learn, or they don't know how to tell a story. It's basically all I care about is my wins and my losses and how many titles I get. I can tell you right now, I have told some good stories in my wrestling career. Paul and I had one of the best ones that I ever ran. And people will still talk about that. Do you know how many titles I've won in SL wrestling? I've won a total of 3 titles.
And I don't even wrestle.
Right. I've won a total of 3 titles. That's how important titles are to me. I would much rather be the person carrying a good story and have something to be talked about. Now, granted, eventually, if somebody said, "Hey, you've been doing this, doing that, we'd like to put the title on you," absolutely. If it was asked, I would never ask for it. I would never demand it, and I care less about wins and losses. And I think that's one of the downfalls that's coming in is people are so worried about their status they forget how to build the correct kind of status.
got kind of a surprise, not like a long-winded answer, but I just wanted to, I wanted to, real quick, well, on the topic of tribalism, I can't have everybody talk about like tribalism in this community without saying we owe a lot to Mythil over at DCWF and Baza. They allowed LPW specifically to have a show during their WrestleFest pay-per-view. We owe a lot to Brooke Owens and her Victorious show that she does, for allowing LPW to be featured on her show with a 4-person death match before our first show even happened. We owe a lot to SMF and Josh Poffo over at BCW for helping out our Fed and getting our wrestlers' name out there as well. We owe a lot to Honor Pro Wrestling for allowing our wrestlers like Dazzle Flash and Alex Kahira to perform as an LPW showcase on one of their major shows, which was amazing. Owe a lot to Morgan Jones and Viola over at VWE for allowing LPW wrestlers to wrestle in the Elimination Royale this year as LPW wrestlers. So we owe a lot to all these other cool feds for working with us and putting all the tribalism aside and all the bullshit.
That's what it's about. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to shout them out specifically. So Hammer, Morgan Jones, Viola, Josh Poffo, SMF, Mythil, Baza, Winlow. Thank you very much for helping us be successful and helping to bring this entire community together. And I agree with what you're saying about stories, and you as well, Paul. BK. People say wrestling's a drug. The reason that people take drugs in real life is to trick your brain into releasing specific chemicals so your body feels something. And when professional wrestling is done right, we are in the business of selling holy shit moments, and we're in the business of selling emotions and feelings. Because that's all it is. We are making your body play a trick on itself to release chemicals from your brain to make you feel things when it's done right. And when that happens, that there's no better reward than that. And I think that's why we all love wrestling. At some level, somebody did something to trick your brain into releasing a chemical to make you feel an emotion, whether you laughed, whether you were scared, whether you cried, whether you were annoyed, whether you were angry, whatever. So by doing proper story and not worrying so much about wins and losses, even though wins and losses might be important to the story at the time, doing it in service of the story and the performance will always yield better results overall. And I think that's
right
one of
about
our
that.
core. Yeah, I think that's one of our core tenets here at LPW when constructing storylines, and we try to write
And
things
it's
with that foremost.
and sometimes what you're saying with that drug, and especially it's more rewarding, I think, as far as an individual. Like I said, me and BK been in storylines, but there's times that I wrote stories for other people, not myself, that even wasn't involved in it, and it got pretty good, and they performed good, and at the end, people are into it, and it's like, oh wow, like you're right about that chasing the drug. I'm like, I got more joy sometimes out of that doing it for other people than I did for myself, just to, because it worked out the way I visioned it or whatever, and people got into it and they enjoyed doing it, and it was like that's very like you said, really rewarding.
I'll say one thing. You know that Uncut Gems scene with he goes, "Oh my God, I'm gonna come." That was Ollie last week with the crowd reaction.
Yeah, I had that moment planned. I had that moment planned since the end of May last year. Is how far in advance I wrote that moment. So being able to do that, and looking back at the stream and not being able to hear my promo because there was so much of a crowd reaction on the stream was incredibly rewarding.
That's what it's all about.
All right, guys, we are coming to the end. Paul, you want to take us out?
All right. So everybody check out LPW today, 2 p.m. SLT. We'll post the landmark in our group chat. Check out LPW every week on Sundays at 12 p.m. SLT. You can check out BK starting on January 1st, the new year, the new promotion, AVW, was on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. SLT. He's going to be the commentator. You can check me out coming in the season in Premier Wrestling. I'll be on Attitude. You can check out Premier Wrestling shows coming out on Mondays, Thursdays. Rise is on Sundays. I know I'm missing one there. House shows each week. We'll start posting them. But I want to thank personally being BK and Z. I want to thank Mike, Mad Mike, for coming. We want to thank you, Oliver, wonderful, for coming. And this was I tell you what, this was one of the more informative shows we had. And I suggest everybody check it out. If you came in late or whatever, we'll have our YouTube page up. We'll post it. And I just want to thank you guys, and we will see you next week.
Well, hold on. Also, make sure we have the new X account. We do have an email. We're trying to work out the issues with Spotify, and of course we have our Discord channel. Make sure and on YouTube, leave comments on that Discord channel, or here in Discord or on the YouTube. We will reply, but make sure you like, subscribe, share, let everybody. Let's get this show out, because this is kind of stuff that we want you all to know. This is what we want you to be engaged with. Exactly. So thank you all very, very much for being here, and we will see you all next time.
Thanks for having us. Go Birds!
We're out.